you again, Enoara, for doing this live. And here we go. So we got to right about here. Oh, I need to share it. Silly, silly me. Let's go ahead and share that. Here we go. Okay, so we got to classical music, which is a kind of music or a type of music. What's the difference between a kind of music and a type of music?
I don't know. I sh-
There isn't really one. It's a trick question. What's trick question?
Two questions?
No, trick question is a pegadinho.
Ah,
So
é a
it's a
mesma
trick
coisa,
question.
mesmo
Yeah,
significado.
that they're basically the same. Maybe type might be a little bit more formal, but they're pretty much the same. And then, like we talked about last time, we have the word that I'm pretty sure we stole from the French, genre. That's definitely a French word. Then we talked about can you hear music, classical music playing in the garden? Classical music has been shown to help anxious people. That's true. Then what were I think you gave us two kinds of music that are your favorite kinds of music.
Forró.
For row,
Forró.
for row, forró. And I don't think you said forró last time. I think you said like did you say
Joelma.
country or
Calypso.
Asia? Um,
Tô brincando.
what was it? Funk, Brazilian
Uh,
funk.
I
Do
like
you
funk,
really?
but yes, I like so
Ugh.
much. But I like funk to the gym,
At the gym.
at the gym, yeah. And I like so much sertanejo.
So I like sertanejos so much.
I like sertanejo so much too. And how can I say eclética? Eclectic?
Eclectic.
Eclectic.
Eclectic. So you have eclectic tastes.
Yes.
All right. All right. I have pretty eclectic tastes too, except it doesn't include Brazilian funk. Definitely doesn't. And definitely doesn't include most country music or sertanejo. But outside of that, like classical, pop, folk, I like folk music, especially
That's
indie
nice.
music, any kind of indie music, pretty much. I like rock, classic rock. What else do I like?
Gospel.
Yeah, I like gospel music. But the interesting thing when we say gospel music in
Gospel.
English, we're usually talking about like African American gospel music from a lot of times older African American gospel music. So if you say gospel, a lot of times it gives that kind of connotation. Where what would be gospel, what we say in Portuguese when we say gospel, música gospel, usually we're talking about just um, Christian music is what we call that.
Christian.
Yeah. So like there you get into Christian pop or contemporary Christian music or so most instead of gospel most of the time we call that Christian music, which would be like Fernandinho and those kinds of things. If they were in English, then that would be uh,
Christian.
Christian, especially like Fernandinho would be like Christian pop or something like that, contemporary Christian music. Going on to kind of music or music genre. Can you read for us?
Yes, I really like Brazilian rock. I'd probably say it's my favorite music genre.
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 Yeah, because it's French,
Oh
so
my
it's
gosh,
it's
genre.
genre. And it's interesting because most of the time when we have words from French, then we basically most of the time we just massacre them. Like most people say garage or I'm trying to think of another French word
Garage.
that we
Genre.
that we
Genre.
that we massacre, but I can't think of another one. But so genre is
Genre.
and genre is very common to hear people use genre for music or even like movies. If you, what's your favorite movie genre?
Um, I don't know.
What
Uh,
kind?
Romance.
Romance. Okay. So romantic
I like to
movies. Yeah.
cry, you know.
Oh, good. That's fun. Crying is fun. Okay. All right.
Ai, eu não tô mentindo, é verdade.
No, I believe you. So some different kinds of music, like rock, country, hip hop, or rap. Hip hop. It seems to me I'm not into a lot of hip hop or rap these days. I was when I was in high school, but it seems to me like a lot of hip hop is when you talk about rap. Most it seems to me most people use hip hop to talk about rap or things that would be basically considered rap or close to rap. Then we have jazz as well, which a lot of people like jazz music. Now, something extremely interesting to me is in Portuguese when we say show. For example, I love Jota Quest. So we went to see Jota Quest at the food festival in Taquaraçu. Now, when we went to watch Jota Quest, in Portuguese we would say we went to their show.
Okay.
But show in English, go ahead and read through here concert and show.
Concert, large musical performance, show, used more for TV or Broadway.
Yeah, so what does that mean? It means that we don't usually use show in the way that we talk about in Portuguese. So most of my students, when they want to translate, for example, we went to see Jota Quest. Well, they would say we went to the Jota Quest show. But if we say we went to the Jota Quest show, it sounds like a musical. So it sounds like I went to see Cats or I went to see the Phantom of the Opera. Those are shows. They are musicals. They're plays. What's a play?
É, jogar, tocar.
Play, the verb is jogar tocar, but a play is uma peça de teatro. So
Ah,
a play, when it's a noun, is what we see on a stage. So when we talk about a show, we're usually talking about a play that has music, which is what we call a musical. So like Phantom of the Opera and those kinds of things. So we don't usually use that when we talk about bands. We use concert, which we have in Portuguese, concerto, but in concert in Portuguese, we're
it's
talking
show.
but it's classical music. If we say eu fui para um concerto, then the person understands that
Yes.
I went to a classical music
Yes.
concert where we would use, like, for example, the we went to the Jota Quest concert at the food festival in Taquaraçu. So that's kind of a
Basically,
difference.
concert is show for us.
Yep,
It's
basically.
concert for you. Okay.
Basically, exactly. Where shows like my favorite TV show, I might ask you, what's your favorite TV show? Then we use show for TV, or have you ever been to a Broadway show? Is another are the main uses of show. So, for example, my favorite TV show is Severance, or I've always wanted to see a Broadway show. So those are two examples of where we would use show, where I wouldn't say I went to the Jota Quest show because it sounds like people acting. It sounds doesn't sound like they're just presenting music, but it sounds like they're acting, they're pretending, they're putting on a show. And another thing, interesting thing about show is when we talk about when someone is pretending, when someone is making a big deal about something, we can say they're putting on a show. They're being fake is another way because when we talk about like Broadway shows, they're pretending. actually being fake. They're not actually those people. They're actors that are acting like that person. So if I say
Yes.
that this person, like for example, Enoara doesn't put on a show, right? Because you're the same when we are having class as you are on Instagram. You're not one of those people that are completely fake on Instagram and are different in everyday life. So I would
Yes.
say that you don't put on a show where I've had dealings with influencers that put on a show on Instagram and are different in day to day life. Okay, so let's read through these examples,
I went to a Beach Boys concert when I was a kid.
and that's true. Have you ever heard of the Beach Boys?
No.
Yeah, they were before my time, and they were way before your time. They're a band, a band that my dad introduced me to. My dad used to have the records. You know what records are?
Really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. My dad used to have the records, and I used to play them on a record player. And he had the original records, where like today you can buy records that are like re-releases, but he had some of the original Beach Boys records.
I never saw that one.
So but can you still?
I don't know. Ainda existe isso?
Do they exist? Yeah, like I said, um, you can get, you can find either old ones or you can get re-releases. So re-releases is like when they have the old vinyl and they release new ones. So it's not actually the originals that
Okay.
were
Uh huh.
released back then, which is what my dad had. I don't think he has them anymore. But knowing him, he probably has them in somewhere in his house in the basement, or actually in the garage. He doesn't have a basement, but he 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 stores everything. He keeps everything, so he probably has them somewhere. Okay, let's continue here. And it's not letting me. I wonder what the problem is. Let me try something real fast here because it's not letting me do the screen share. I'm going to have to see what.
Tinha voltado, ele tava.
Yeah, you're seeing it, but I don't know if it's. I think it's not showing us, it's just showing the screen share. But we'll see if I can get it to work here so that everybody can see it. Okay, so the second sentence.
The Phantom of the Opera was the longest running show on Broadway.
So then we can see there the use of Broadway show. So it wouldn't be concert. And the first one, I went to a Beach Boys show when I was a kid, is probably I don't know if that it's actually wrong, but it's not very common to hear show with music, so it sounds strange to me. And then uh, concert would be wrong for Phantom of the Opera because it's a play. And then the last one,
Grey's Anatomy is my wife's favorite TV show.
which is true. That's her favorite
Yes,
TV
it's true.
shows. Yes. Whenever if there's if there's like if I have something wrong with me or she has something wrong with me and I'm like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "Well, I graduated from Grey's Anatomy Medical School." So,
Teacher, in this case, uh, I want I want to see que eu nunca vi, mas tem possibilidade de ver, eu vou usar o have,
I
né?
want
Que
to
foi
say,
I
uh-huh.
want to say, ok, aí eu vou usar o have.
So, give me the sentence. It's easier if you just give me the sentence.
Because eu falei I never saw. Só que eu ainda posso ver.
Right. So give me the correct sentence.
The question I have never to see.
I have
Sim,
never seen, yeah, past participle. Yeah.
I have never seen Grey's Anatomy.
There you go. Because you still can, right?
Okay, uh-huh, yes.
Don't tell Val, she'll think you're weird. Okay. She thinks everybody should see. No, she doesn't, but yeah.
I
It's
have
it's
never
good.
seen Harry Potter, for
That's
example.
right. We talked about that one
And
time. And it's because you're
I'm very
you don't have it
estranha.
you don't have anything else to do, right? You all you do is sit at home and watch TV and movies all day, right? No, not really. All right.
Not really.
So, another thing that's very common is the mistake of my favorite music. So, if you say, for example, um, let's see, the Macarena. Remember that song, or is that before
Yes.
you? Okay, good.
Yeah, Macarena.
At least you're not so young that you don't know what the Macarena is. So, in Portuguese, it would be very common to say the Macarena is my favorite music because we use music to describe either a genre, like my favorite music is bossa nova or is samba or whatever it is. That's a kind of music. So I can say that's my favorite music. But in Portuguese, we can also say the Macarena is my favorite music. Or what's the song by, uh, I'll use,
Ah,
bless you.
sorry.
Uh, what's a song you like right now? Can you think of a
Uh,
song? I'll give you one. Africa, which is way before your time. It's during my time, during the 1980s. Africa by Toto. That's that's
oh my
bless
god.
you. That's
Thanks.
that's one of my favorite songs. Now in Portuguese, I could say Africa is one of my favorite musics, but I can't in English use music that way. I don't use music to describe a singular song because music in English is uncountable in almost all situations because we talk about music in general, but if we want to talk about individual songs, then we use song. So that's the difference here. So let's look through here starting with music.
Music. Música em geral é o tipo. I can hear music playing somewhere. What kind of music do you like?
Okay, so then when we talk about music, we're talking about in general or a kind of music
Okay.
and not an individual
Uh-huh.
song, which is song is.
Song is a canção ou a música. What's your favorite song? Would you like to listen to my new favorite song?
Exactly. So in Portuguese, it's very common to hear this mistake because we can say, "What's your favorite music?" when I want to say song. Would you like to listen to my new favorite music? And then it sounds like the kind of music and not the canção, not the individual song. So that's another difference that it's not huge. The person will probably understand what you want to say, but it's one of those things where we're just polishing up the correct way to say it. So music is uncountable. For example,
For example, uh, I liked those musics. Não está certo. I liked those songs.
so I like those musics is not right,
Correct. Right.
is not correct, and
Correct?
yep, correct.
Correct.
Yeah, correct is just a little bit more technical, a little bit more formal to say is not correct instead of is not right. I liked those songs. And correct also gives the idea of correct, incorrect. Like here, correct would probably be better to use because right means certo, but it also means like the right thing to do. So technically correct, you're right. Correct would be better to use here. Nem todos, nem tudo.
Not all. É junto, né? Not all.
Yeah,
Fala
the
aí você.
pronunciation, not all. Not
Not
all.
all. Of something. Most of the songs were good. Good. Were
No,
good.
good. Ud.
Good?
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
But not all of them. Of them.
And here we're going to start using the reduction of. So the first thing to remember is of course that it's not of, but it's of with a V
Oh.
sound of. The second
Uh,
thing to remember is that most native speakers are going to reduce that. So most of the time, instead of, we're going to say but
uh,
not all of them, not all of them.
not all of them. Of
And
them.
a lot of times we would even cut the th and say not all of them. Not in this case
Eu
because
vou
of
chegar lá, calma.
yeah, no, yeah, and that but that's what I'm saying. We're going to go little by little. And in this is actually different because now that I'm pronouncing it, we would say of but cut the th and say not all of them and cut the th. But like you said, we'll get there little by little. And if again, reductions are the way that we say them, but if you say but not all of them, it'll be understood by 100% of the English speaking world. So
But not
there's
of them.
not a problem
Not
with
all
that.
of them.
Uh, most of the songs were good, but not all of them.
Not everything. Not everything was true is that post.
What's the word after true?
In that post.
The whole sentence again?
Not everything was true in that post.
So the difference, a lot of times there's confusion uh, from my students have a lot of confusion between all and everything because they want to say all whenever we have tudo in Portuguese, whenever we want to say talk about everything, but we use all in situations, most of the situations where we use all is because it's part of a whole, the parts of a whole. So here, for example, we're talking about songs. There are many songs, and I want to talk about all of those songs. I don't want to talk about everything. Everything is the whole is everything. So, for example, not everything was true in that post. So that's tudo, but we're talking about not talking about individual parts coming together. We're talking about the part as one. And if I said, I could say all of that post, or in this case, not all of that post was true. So we can do one way with everything, one way with all, but it's not always that we can use both of them. For example, if I'm talking about a pie, I how would you say ele comeu todo o bolo, a torta? Ele comeu toda a torta.
Uh, he ate. Eu usaria all of. E a torta, que. How can I say torta in
The
English?
torta, no, the pie.
Pie. All of the pie.
All of the pie because we're talking about because the pie is would usually be divided,
Aham.
and so we're talking about all of it, all of the parts of the pie. I cannot say everything, which is tudo, right? I can't
Aham.
say everything of the pie. It would be all
É,
of the pie.
fica
So,
esquisito.
yeah.
Até.
Candy versus sweet.
Candy versus sweet.
So we're talking about nouns. What are nouns?
Uh, nouns.
Do you remember what nouns are?
É, que é incontável.
No, uncountable. You're trying to
Ah,
cheat.
yes.
Uncountable is incontável. Nouns are basically things. They're substantivos. So they're
Substantivos, é verdade.
when I was
Tava
in
só te
school,
testando, teacher.
yes. When I was in school, they always said nouns are person, place, or thing. I think now they added person, place, or thing, or idea. They added one more. I don't remember what it is, but it's basically if you boil it down to the most basic, it's a thing. A noun is a thing. So uh, both of these are nouns, candy and sweet, when we talk about how we have them here. If we talk about the thing, so for candy, for example, it's
Candy. I want to buy some candy.
but what is it? Candy is
Alguns doces. Uncountable.
it's uncountable. Candy is uncountable in most cases. You can talk about candies Usually, when you talk about candies, you're talking about different kinds of candy. So,
Mm,
like Kit Kat or Snickers, or now I really want chocolate, but different kinds of candy. And candy uh, is usually, I like to use the example of do you remember the name of the holiday where kids knock on doors and say trick or treat and they dress up in costumes?
and in Brazil, it's Cosme Damião.
No, in the United States.
I don't know.
Halloween.
Ah,
Yeah, I know you knew that one.
oh my god.
So, so Halloween, the kids go door to door, knock on the door, they dress up
Yes.
in
Uh-huh.
costumes. And can you put a piece of cake in their bag? If a kid on Halloween comes to your door, knocks on your door, says trick or treat, can you put a piece of cake in their bag or a piece of pie in their bag?
Pie, no.
Cake? How about cake? Can you put a piece of
Cake, yes. Cake
what?
and
What?
candies.
No, cake. Because cake, you couldn't put a piece of cake in their bag when they would open it up when they get home and it'd be all
Não, se tiver
right.
embalado, não.
Ah, but I didn't say embalado. I said just a piece of cake. You take a
Ah,
piece. Same thing with pie. I mean, if you wrap up a piece of pie, you could probably do it. But
yes.
what I'm saying is, it's what I try and use so that you can remember that when we talk about candy, we're not talking about things that you put directly into
Okay.
uh, into the bag. The kids, uh, what do they a lot of kids use their what do they call that? Their trick or treating bag. I forgot. My goodness, I've been here too long. So so when we talk about candy, we're talking about things that come wrapped. So like we have here, balas, which would be like hard candy or candy bars or gum or those kinds of things. When we talk about candy in American English, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about those kinds of things are candy. Now, the second one is,
Sweets.
mhm,
She doesn't
and
want
don't
her
skip. I don't know why Brazilians love to skip things. What's the next after sweets?
Britannical.
Británico or Britânico in
Britannical.
Portuguese, in case you
In
forgot Portuguese.
Portuguese.
So, what
Forgot
is
Portuguese.
what is Britânico in English?
Britannical.
No,
She
it's not Britannico. It's British.
British.
Britannico.
Péssima, meu Deus. She doesn't want her kids to eat sweets.
Right? And it's not exclusively British. There are some people that speak that way. I think they're weird, so I put it as British, but especially British, they use sweets for anything. It could be candy, it could be cake, or it could be pie or whatever. Let me see if I have. So the other thing about sweets and candy is if I want to talk about cake and pie, then I don't have to say cake and pie, but I can say dessert. We
Dessert.
usually use dessert when we're talking about things that aren't candy that are sweet
Okay.
because you don't serve candy bars. Like if you have people to your house for a dinner party, excuse me, if you have people to your house for a dinner party, you usually don't serve Snickers bars as dessert. You don't serve like hard candy as dessert usually for a dinner party. You usually have flan, which Brazilians love. Do you know what flan is? Or flan if you're fancy?
Uh, no.
It's what
Pudim?
we yeah, it's what we call pudim.
Pudim?
Pudim. So,
Really?
yeah.
Como? Fala de novo.
Flan.
Flan.
Flan. I think some
Flan.
people call it flan in Portuguese. They just Portuguese it. Uh, and another interesting with that is that pudding is kind of like a mousse, but not exactly like it's not mousse de chocolat, which is chocolate mousse. Chocolate mousse is not healthy at all. You know, it's completely fat and sweet.
Yes.
You know that kind of stuff. But it's almost like uh, it's like a cross, I would say, and people, anybody that might be watching this who's an American might think I'm ridiculous, but it's kind of a cross between yogurt and chocolate mousse. So, but it doesn't have like that tartness of yogurt. Uh, so that's what we call pudding, would be like chocolate pudding. Or, and actually, the only time that I had ever heard of tapioca in the U.S. was tapioca pudding. And when I came to Brazil, and I'll never forget when Val, I never saw tapioca in the South, but when we came up to Palmas, we moved to Palmas, and we went to a kiosk, uh, and they were selling tapioca, and Val was like, "Do you want to get a tapioca?" And I was like, "No," because I never liked tapioca pudding. And then they got the tapioca like we have here that was, it almost looked kind of like a crepe, but made out of tapioca. And I was like, "That's not tapioca." And she was like, "Yeah, that's tapioca." And I was like, "Okay." And then I tried it. I was like, "Wow, that's actually good." So tapioca, how we eat it here, fried with meat and stuff in it, is very different than the only tapioca that I had ever seen before coming to uh, central Brazil, or the northern region, as we. This is so weird, but um, then tapioca pudding. So that's that same kind of idea of pudding, which is different than what in Brazil we call pudim, which then would be flan.
I like it, pudding.
Yeah, I liked it, but then in the South, when I was in the South, it was the most popular dessert after lunch, and
Yes.
everybody gave it to us, and we had it almost every day, and I got tired of it. I got tired of it, and now I can only eat it like once a year because it was just
It's too
too
sweet.
much. I don't mind. I love things that are really, really sweet, but that was just like having it every day for almost 2 years. That was overkill. That was too much. Okay, so she doesn't want her kids to eat sweets, which would be candy or desserts. Now,
Desserts.
in American English, we don't usually use sweets as a noun, but we do use it a lot as an adjective. So sweet means
Doce.
mm-hmm,
My son-in-law.
law.
In-law.
Yeah,
La.
so W here is silent. So son in law.
La.
Yep.
My son-in-law picked,
Picked
picked, picked some sweet
mangoes.
mangoes
Yeah,
at
you
this
guys you guys pronounce it wrong. We pronounce it right. So just so you know.
mangoes at
Mango, go. Mangoes.
mangoes mangoes at his friend's country house.
What is son-in-law?
I don't know.
Son-in-law is genro. Son-in-law, genro, or
Nós.
literally filho em lei. Ele é meu filho só pelo lei, pela lei, right? So son-in-law,
Ah,
genro, daughter-in-law, nora, and I never knew why genro and nora and not genro e genra or nora e noro. I always thought, why change it? Why not just because in Portuguese we do that so often where you just change the O to A. I don't know why it's not nora e noro or genro e
Noro.
genra. Why not? It makes so much
Meu
more
pai
sense.
fala Noro.
Yeah, yeah, there you
Uhum.
go. Well, it's like most people say marido for husband and esposa for wife, but a lot of people say esposa and esposo. But nobody says marida. Why? I mean, why do they say marido and esposo, but no everybody says esposa, but nobody says marida?
It's
I
very
mean,
interesting.
right? That's just some of the peculiarities of Portuguese. But
Peculiarities.
yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, nobody talks like that. Only English nerds use words like peculiarities.
Peculiarities.
I'm even having a hard time saying it.
Peculiarities.
So,
Peculiar.
son-in-law is genro, my
Okay.
filho em lei. Uh, daughter-in-law, nora. Mother-in-law is, what do you think mother-in-law is?
Sogra.
Uh-huh. Father-in-law?
Sogro.
Right, there you go. Sogra, sogro. That's perfect. Why not nora, noru? Okay,
I
anyway.
don't know. I don't
Anyway, it's your fault. It's all your fault.
know.
Okay, so daughter-in-law, brother-in-law,
Brother-in-law. É... Cunhado.
sister-in-law.
Cunhada.
Yep. So those are all of our in-laws, and we can refer to all of them as in-laws, right? So everybody that you are related to by marriage, you can say my in-laws. I love my in-laws. That means it can mean all of them, or sometimes we use it to mean mother-in-law and father-in-law. So
Nice.
that's what that is. So my son-in-law picked some sweet mangoes at his friend's country house. So sweet
Mangoes.
as an adjective there.
Okay. Boss.
Boss.
The boss in the person who makes
The boss what?
in the person
The boss what? What's the word after boss?
is.
Wow.
Oh my
Good.
god. Congratulations.
Congratulations, you've come so far.
Ah, eu esqueci minha Ritalina hoje. I'm so sorry.
Ah, jeez. I didn't forget mine. That's why I'm jacked up. I'm ready to go.
The boss is the person who makes the decisions. I'm
And then
going to
just be careful. That S at the end is a Z, zebra sound. Decisions.
decisions.
Yeah, but don't push it
It's
out longer because then it sounds like S. So
decisions. Deci-
decisions, decisions.
decisions.
Yeah, you said it. I said it like that once too. Not decisions. That's how I actually said it once. Decisions.
Decisions.
Yeah, don't.
Deci-
Yeah, cut it because you're saying it sounds like an S. You need to make a Z and cut it short. Decisions.
decisions. It's very difficult for me.
Yes, the S at the end I'm finding is one of the hardest sounds for my students, and I'm still trying to develop a way to help them pronounce the Z at the end instead of an S, and so far I haven't found it, to be honest. Z.
Decisions.
Yeah,
Decisions.
but there's not the problem is the S in the middle is not a Z. So when you focus on trying to make the S at the end a Z, like what you did now was decisions, but it's decisions.
Decisions.
That's better, but don't at the end.
Decisions.
Decisions.
Decisions. Decisions.
That's better, but
Deci-
not good. Okay, continuing.
I'm going to buy a present for my boss and his kids.
Same thing. Now carregue. Don't say his
É
because
porque
it's
eu quero
Z.
fazer o Z e é difícil. Aí eu
Mas
tenho.
no, it's impossible to make the Z sound if you're going to continue the sound. So continuing the sound is not going to help. It's going to make it worse. So his.
His.
Não, agora é his. His é o som de cobra. Isso é
His.
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 É o que faz. It's what
His. His.
a snake
His.
does. His
His.
kids. His kids.
His kids.
And kids is also a Z. See, it happens so often. It's incredible.
Help me, God.
So we talked about this last time. What happened?
What happened? What's happening? It's still happening. What's happened?
Not happened.
Happened.
There you go.
What happened?
But it's
If
and again, it's not a T, it's a D. Happened. Happened.
happened.
Good.
If it already happened.
D.
Happened.
D. Happened.
Happened.
Good. That was good.
Now I understand what happened.
Good. Very nice. See, that's why I made you do it 3 times. One, two, three. The third time it was perfect.
What happened? What happened?
Very good.
Now understand what happened.
Very nice.
Como diz o Paulo, eu tô de parabéns. Tudo que ele faz de
Yeah.
bom, ele eu tô de parabéns.
So let's say that in English for those who might be watching who don't speak Portuguese. So as Paulo says,
Paulo says,
and
I'm
this is actually estou de parabéns. The way that most people would say it, you won't get. So I'll help you. I'm to be congratulated.
I'm to be
Con-
congratulated.
congratulated. Like I've heard you say congratulations before, right?
Oh yes,
So the verb is to congratulate, and so I'm to be.
I'm to
Eu,
be.
so literally, it's é para eu ser
Uh-huh.
congratulado. So I'm to be congratulated.
Bem tranquilo, graças a Deus.
Yes, very. It's that's more of a formal way because most people would just say like, "You should
I'm to
congratulate
be
me" or something like that.
congratulated.
Good, that's good.
I'm to be congratulated. Vou usar assim com ele, vai que ele aprende.
Yeah.
To happen. To go on. What's going on? What's wrong with you?
So go on. Another, it's a synonym for to happen. And what's going on? It can be like, for example, if your kids are fighting or making a lot of noise, you go in, you're like, "What's going on?" Or even, "What's going on here? What's going
O
on here?"
que está acontecendo aqui?
Yep. Now, what's going on if you see a friend and they're crying or
Ah, ok.
they're really sad? Of course you're not going to be like, "What's going on?" You're going to be like, it's going to be more like, "Oh, what's
Aí a
going
pessoa
on?"
chora de novo.
Yeah, right. Harder. They cry harder. What's going on? What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
And
What?
so even what's wrong with you can go both ways. It can be like, "What's wrong with you?" Right? Que tem de errado com você? What's wrong with you? Or what's and most people, if it's nice, you would just say, "What's going on? What's wrong?" They probably wouldn't say with you if you're being nice, if you're using it the nice way.
That's right. That's right. Peter and I are going to get married. I need to make more money. That's right.
That's good. I like the way. That's right. Me and everybody else.
Music store. I know of a music store. Eu sei de uma loja. I
So
know a store. Eu sei de uma loja. Posso ter visitado ou não. Calma aí. Mas o know, a gente não
read
usa.
read the observation. Observation.
It doesn't necessarily mean you have been there.
Because remember, do we use the verb know for places like we do in Portuguese? Do I say, for example, uh, I know Paris?
Exactly.
Do I say that? I know Paris?
No, I don't know Paris.
I don't know Paris unless you lived there or stayed there for a month and went to every place and
Yes.
learned about it. So if I say I know a store, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that I've been there necessarily.
Yes.
It means that it's the same as I know of. I know of a store, right? Eu ouvi falar.
Aham, eu
So,
sei de uma loja.
yeah,
Faz mais sentido do que I know a store.
but they both are used, and that's why they're here.
Hum,
Because it, thinking like someone who speaks Portuguese, then I know of a music store, the way that we want to use it makes more sense. But we use them both interchangeably, and to us, it makes no difference. So because if you say, I know of a music store, usually you haven't been there. You wouldn't say, I know of a music store if you've already been there. But I know a store could be that you've been there, or maybe you haven't been there.
ok.
It gives that possibility of both of them.
To get there. Sentido de chegar. Precisa vir seguido do lugar. To get here, to get there, to get to somewhere. How do I get there? How do you get downtown? You can get there by subway. How long does it take to get there?
Okay. Now, so we've expanded. We started off with get there, then we went to how do you get there? And now how long does it take to get there? So how long does it take to get to the lake from your house?
Maybe 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay.
It's better like that. That way. It's better like this. I know it's not perfect, but it's better like this. This. Quando algo está perto de você.
So inside of your reach, this.
Okay. It's better like that. I think we should have breakfast at 9. It's better like that. That. Algo já foi falado antes ou está fora do alcance.
So most of the time, if it's something that somebody said, we're going to use that most of the time. So if we're talking and you say something bad about, uh, I don't know, you say something bad about Val. I don't know why you would, but then I could,
Always.
yeah, I could say that was terrible, right? I wouldn't say this is terrible or this was terrible. I would say that because it was something that you said. So the idea is outside of my reach, it's that. It
Okay.
doesn't matter if it's physically outside of my reach or something that you said that's already out of my reach. You can't go back to what you said. You can't change it. It's already out of reach.
It's better like that. That way. It's better this way. I know it's not perfect, but it's better this way.
Not
Usamos o
this, this.
this. Usamos o this quando algo está perto de você.
Right? So
This.
this part
This.
we use this when it's inside of your reach. That's the same as what we saw before, but here now we have this way. What is way? Remember way has a few
Jeito.
jeito, good. Yeah, way has a few meanings, but
Uhum.
here it's jeito maneira. So
Jeito é maneira.
é melhor deste, literalmente deste jeito, desta maneira. This way.
It's better that way. I think
That.
that way. I think we should have breakfast at 9. It's better that way. That way. That.
Yep.
Algo que já foi falado antes ou está fora do alcance. That.
Okay, so we will start
Look
with
around.
look around.
Look
And so
around.
we'll start with look around and then we will get to correcting. We'll correct lesson 46.
Okay.
At least
Let's.
start the correction next time.
Okay, teacher.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
You
Have a
are
nice day.
very welcome. You too. Talk to you soon.
Ay. Ay. Bye.